Invest Atlanta is the economic development arm for the city, and what we do and our purpose and our mission and our passion really is to grow the economy. And we do that through job creation and increased investment. I will go in the morning to be working with an individual and helping them achieve their home dream and get their first home loan. And we can help, or I'll be later on in the afternoon with a small business and helping them with a small business loan, to then having a conversation with NCR or any other Fortune 500 or big company that's looking to Atlanta to call Atlanta home. So the spectrum of what I do is very wide. One of the things, I used to work in the city, well, I should say with the state of California. And when I was at the state of California, I had the opportunity to go up and down the state. And one of the things I saw was the city of San Jose and Silicon Valley, and they were doing a lot of innovative ideas and policies. So when I got to here to the city of Atlanta, I had this great opportunity to say, the city has great amount of resources. If you think about it, we have fire stations, police stations, parks, and rec centers, and buildings. It would be great for an entrepreneur to be able to test their products and services in the demonstration phase of their product on our city resources. So had this great idea, really used some of the experience that I hadn't seen in California, and said, let's create that here in Atlanta. And had people say, oh, crazy, never gonna happen. 2 years later, we now have a demonstration policy project here in the city of Atlanta. We should have our first entrepreneur testing out her product at the Hemp Hill facility and our water facility in about a month. So I met Emily, it must have been at a conference. And Emily, I was talking about how we're driven by jobs and we want to help startups and everything we had planned to do. And she says, well, Eloisa, that sounds great, but I'm leaving Atlanta. What? Why are you leaving Atlanta? And she says, well, because I need to test my product. And the only place, the only city that would allow me to test my product in a real live environment is in California. So she was ready to leave her product, her innovation, technology, her employees, picking up and leaving Atlanta. Couldn't happen. So as a result, started to work very aggressively on this idea of a demonstration project and had now a person that I could show council, because it's a weird concept. Demonstration phase, really? Are they going to access already city resources? Didn't quite understand. But when I had an example of how this program could possibly work, it made it very easy for council, for council and the mayor to approve, and got that passed. How do we get startups? So this whole idea about a startup is how you give it forward. And so the city, really, our touch points in the innovation ecosystem is pretty small when you have investors and mentors and different folks that can help you make your business successful. So one of the things that we had was, how about in the city of Atlanta, which is the only city that I know of in the South that has that, any startup in the city no longer pays a business license fee. So it could mean $100 to $5,000 depending on where your business is. And so what we said is, look, if this is truly my only touch point, and I'm saying to you, I'm going to give it to you if you're a startup within this technology NAICS codes, then it sends a message from the city that we are so dedicated to the startups that the little bit that we get, we're giving it back to you, because we know at the beginning an entrepreneur has no revenue stream. So every penny you have to pay makes a difference. And then we said, but there is some little things that you have to qualify. First is it only is good for 3 years, or if your company makes $1 million. We figured after $1 million, you could pay your license fee. So if you look at us nationally, Atlanta, having worked on the West and in the East and now here in the South, really, there's a couple things that I think is very unique about Atlanta that I've come to really love and appreciate, which is why I'm here and my family's here. One, it's the quality of life. Yes, I'm going to work really hard, but I want to also play hard and enjoy life at a price I can afford. The fact that I can go buy a home, the fact that I can provide my kids with a great education, a great amount of amenities, and still have the ability to come home and spend some time with them. And I think it's that work-life balance that's really important for an individual and their health. The difference about being able to afford, cost of living, amenities, and life is important to I think, an entrepreneur. And then on a business side, the cost of a business is much lower here as well. So not only do you get the quality of life as an individual, but as a business and a startup, it's not going to be that expensive. And at those beginning years as a startup, you need to make sure that every penny goes as far as it possibly can. So I'd say there's several other things. One, I love what my mayor always says, Mayor Reed says, we have the busiest airport on the planet. Just in case we live on another one, it's this planet. Definitely it's the busiest airport. Now what that means in terms of time is that you can get to 80% of the nation within 2 hours or less on the flight, 4 days on a truck. So if you think about your business moving, the success of a business is going to come in your ability to move people, quality, services, products in a timely and efficient manner. So the airport is important. The fact that you have a concentration here in Atlanta of the third amount of concentrated Fortune 500s is here. So you potentially, as a startup, have a revenue stream or customers, right? And so the ability to be able to interact with them. I'd say the innovation and entrepreneur ecosystem that's here in Atlanta, so that you can find the networks that you need at either ATV, Technology Enterprise Park, or ATDC, Flatiron, Switchyards, are all here to provide support to a startup. Those are things that are also very important. And then I would say the diversity of clusters, right? We're seeing a strength in fintech, health tech, transportation, logistics, headquarters. That mix of businesses provide a variety of services or opportunities for any business to take advantage of. So I think it's Invest Atlanta's role and obligation to make sure that we're not only thinking about what's relevant today, but what's going to get us to be relevant in the 21st century. So always thinking a little bit ahead. What are some of the trends? What are we seeing in growth? What are we seeing about opportunities? And being one step ahead of them. And that's where Invest Atlanta needs to be. We need to be actively driving the city to the 21st century and being competitive. So obviously the financial technology is a big trend for us. Well, I wouldn't say trend. We have really become the hub of fintech, literally. Health information technology, logistics. You'll see film and tourism just exploding here in Atlanta. That's adding the creation of new jobs. Headquarters is another one. Healthcare is a strong one for us. These are all important clusters that we're seeing that are helping Atlanta begin to reverberate into other parts of the nation. They're hearing and seeing our impacts. You'll see numbers on the financial technology that 70%, 80% of all transactions are passing through Atlanta in some sort of way. So the impacts are really international as well. So I see the film and television really impacting Atlanta in a positive way. One, it's the amount of new jobs that's coming here, new investment by movie studios. We're seeing the ability to provide workforce training to individuals to become the carpenters, electricians on the set. So we are really combining education and the ability to provide that as a stepping stone for individuals into, skilled level work. So we're seeing a lot of new investment. That is driving also development in other parts of our city because usually the film need a lot more space. The place where I have space are in the southern parts of Atlanta, which have development opportunities. And then what's exciting is that is also spurring this creative class, right? So filmmakers tend to be a lot more creative, which is then supporting our startups, which then is supporting our development on what is the Beltline, which is that 22-mile loop. It's the amenities. So it's all starting to, all these stars are beginning to align, and really Atlanta is going to continue to grow in the South and is leading the growth in the South. If you looked at our expected growth, the ARC is saying we're going to grow, our region's about 5 million now, we're going to grow to 8 million by 2040. The city's going to double in its size. You know, we looked at just Atlanta, so think about Invest Atlanta being foresight into what the future is. If you look at Technology Square, a lot of people are talking about innovation districts, and now they're thinking, do we create them? How do we support them? What does the city do? And now there's this conversation around organic innovation districts. And I would say that Technology Square is truly this organic. It's just come up by itself through ATDC, Georgia Tech, you know, and the 13 corporate innovation centers. These are corporations that are investing in the space. Today, there are about 3,000 people who live and work in that space. By 2019, I'll have over 12,000 individuals living in that space. So you have NCR with 3,600 employees. You have the High Performance Computing Center, which is going to bring another 4,000 to 5,000 individuals, and then the individuals that are currently there, and then all the housing. So if you look at it, it truly is this innovation community where business, education, graduate students, corporations are all conglomerating with the idea of how do we become much more efficient? How are we all thinking about survival for the company, their business, the education to compete in the 21st century? It's going to be a phenomenal place for Atlanta. Well, I'd say transportation is a big one, and I could say that this mayor, Mayor Reed, is very visionary and understands and sees those growth trajectories, and that's why I was very aggressive in getting this half sales tax on the elections that's coming up in November. And the idea is not only to complete the 22-mile loop of the Beltline, but to expand the streetcar so that you have connectivity. Because if we want to continue to attract innovative entrepreneurs, or just the creative class, whether it be entrepreneurs or the film or anyone else, what we're seeing is they don't want to drive. And so we need to have a transportation network that's connected. And what we need to do is begin to connect where the jobs are and where people live in a much more efficient manner. And so that is something that we are very much looking into. And Invest Atlanta Invest Atlanta is playing a role in this by supporting projects and research and studies as to which routes make the most sense. How can we possibly connect? We have under one of our tax allocation districts is the Beltline. So it is something we oversee directly. So very much key to our growth is how we plan the transportation and then the infrastructure. And then with that infrastructure, I'm talking about above ground and brick and mortar, what we see, but also the digital infrastructure. We got to make sure that we're connected, and buildings are talking to buildings, and people are talking to a building, and traffic, the car is talking to the building. And how are we making ourselves this smart city so as we grow, we are much more efficient? And we look to examples like in Barcelona. You can feel the smart city and what the impact has been for that city in moving people and its growth. So we were going to do the same, and the mayor's spending a lot of time as one of the designated Google Fiber cities. This is a great opportunity for us to leverage that opportunity. So we work very aggressively. One of the things that we did was we helped to support the Flatiron Building. And the Flatiron Building was something we invested in, and we were able to work with the owner of the Flatiron to bring the Microsoft Innovation Center. Again, only 2 of these in the nation right now. So that is an opportunity for us. And then leveraging the corporate innovation centers, we brought in WorldPay. WorldPay also created their own innovation center. So it really is connecting the dots. We see ourselves as connectors from beginning till forever when a company comes. So how we continue to help that company be successful. So it's just the first step to bring them here, but how do we grow and help them be successful, whether it's an innovation center, whether it's an internship program, whether it's pipeline students, whatever it is that they're looking for, it's our job to make them successful, because what they'll give us in return is more jobs and more investment. And that's what we're looking for. You know, there's some things that we've started here. So Kauffman Foundation talks about all net new jobs are coming from startups. Well, I was interested in, is that really the case for Atlanta? And so what we did is I worked together with the Atlanta Workforce Development Board. They were able to pull some of the data sets for us. And we looked from 2010 to 2013 and realized that companies, now I determined a startup to be 0 to 1 year old. Some people may go even further, right? Startup could be 0 to 2, but I wanted to be very conservative. 30% of all net new job growth was coming from my startups. So what that did is, one, to your data question, is we leverage our Atlanta Regional Commission, the Atlanta Workforce Development Agency, or our Metro Atlanta Chamber to try to say, what are the issues that matter to us? And how, if I want to get a better understanding, I'm going to leverage their data sets to help move this forward. But we want to make sure that we're making decisions that make us competitive in the future. The only way you can do that is by looking at the data. So we'll look at gross domestic product very closely. I watch that because that's also going to determine our growth. We'll look at our export numbers. We'll look at our job numbers. I'm going to look at our startup numbers, how many permits are pulled. Those are the type of data sets that I'll go to different entities to start looking at. And that's going to help show things. So one of the things we also notice is the city is, as the city grows and we're attracting more, we're going to need to start to change at Invest Atlanta, because infill opportunities are even though they're out there, they're starting to be less than where they were because people are building. And you'll see a lot of cranes in this city. So the question is, do our tools adapt to what will be coming in the future, where we're all built out, we're going to need rehab tools. So those are different things that we're thinking about today. So when that begins to occur, we're ready for it tomorrow. I'd say Atlanta really is a place where you could call home, and everything you envision a home to be. You'd have a great job, you have your house, you have your family. It really provides you everything you need for your growth. I think that's what I would brand Atlanta. But you know, when you talked about Ruckus, I always think about, my goal is that they would say, I don't know what they're doing in Atlanta, but they're just knocking out of the park. It's crazy, from the demonstration project to the licensing to supporting entrepreneurs to a fund, whatever it is, they're trying to do things just a little bit different. And because at the end of the day, I feel if you want to, as a city, attract innovative, creative people, then we at the city and Invest Atlanta need to be innovative and creative. And so that's what I continue to push here at Invest Atlanta, is how do we continue to be innovative and creative. So I would say the city is very committed to entrepreneurs. This mayor has visited Silicon Valley and met with investors. He just literally this morning, we opened up the Women's Entrepreneur Initiative because we realized there was a need for women to have a place. And so he worked tirelessly to make that happen. We continue to fund projects in an innovative way. So we took an old tool, which was our tax allocation district that's been around for many years, and said, how do we help innovative and creative people have places to work? So we funded the Flatiron. So now we have a shared workspace where you could come and work. So it's really taking our tools in our simple, regular tool in a different creative way. And I would, to add on to that, when you come to the city of Atlanta, you're going to find all the support and your network quite quickly. And that is also important, because the quicker I can get you into the community and you find the resources you need, you're more likely to be successful. So finding the resources in a timely and efficient manner, knowing that the city is investing in brick and mortar for places to be, for programming for women entrepreneurs, and literally starting to work with the workforce to help providing them a pipeline into being entrepreneurs. So changing the mindset and making entrepreneurship and your businesses a dream come true is important to us. And I would add, the fourth one is funds. So it's difficult for the city to get involved in the equity space, but really looking at debt in a quite different way. So we want to leverage an innovation loan fund where maybe there is no equity or collateral, interest payments only, maybe year 2, no payments the first year, interest only second year, and then payment and principal in the third. So really, how do we use our debt tool in a creative way as well?